Hey guys, it's Christina, and I'm back with a new episode. In this episode, we are talking to Sonji, and guys, this episode is not going to disappoint. She is someone not only do I admire, but very, very motivational. When it comes to finances, understanding how to invest and allocate your dollars, she is really at the top of the list. So I want to introduce you guys to this phenomenal financial advisor, Sonji. And we're just going to jump right into her story. And you guys are going to have so many gems being dropped. You would definitely understand why I'm telling you. Make sure you stick around for the complete episode. So, how are you today, Sanji?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me back again. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about money. That's one of my favorite topics.
It's probably one of everybody's favorite topics.
It's
So I'm
everybody's.
excited to have you. And it's one of those topics that, finances just really impact every aspect of our life.
Yep. And money is oriented to anything and everything. So we could talk about something else, but we're gonna always circle back to money. So that's another reason why it's important. And it's another reason why we have a positive view on it. Because lots of times we grew up with a negative view and repeating negative things about money because we didn't feel like we could attain it. We felt like it was always somebody else, and that the only way that we could attain money was winning the lottery or something like that. That's how we discussed it. If you think about it, a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with saying, because even I say it sometimes, oh, if I win the lottery, but the lottery is you and me. You're the lottery. You don't have to win the lottery. It's entertaining. So everything is money oriented. Everything is money
I
oriented.
love how you said that because I think a lot of us, if it wasn't us individually, somebody in your family, that was the money story that they stuck with. I have to win the lottery. I have to, be good at sports and only sports to be able to have a lot of money by playing in the NFL and NBA or anything like that. We made these false sense of security in the wrong things when it came to finance. Not say the wrong things, but in something that's really not as attainable if we just knew our finances.
And that's what we talked about. It's the whole thing with social media. That is what we talked about because that's what we understood. We understood being a basketball player, a football player, making a lot of money. We understood the lottery. It was simple and it was easy to understand. And so, thank God, fast forward to these days where we're understanding people like me and you in the industry who are educating everyone else about, what, you can attain this, you can do this. And here are the steps and ways to do it. So now we are making and bringing forth a different conversation. And now we're also spreading that conversation. So it's not only about being a football player, now it's about, oh, maybe I want to be a trader. Maybe I want to be an investment advisor. Maybe I want to be an entrepreneur. Whatever. It is not only millions of dollars can be attained one or two ways, but you can create that. So
absolutely. Yeah. And not only there's no obstacle now in our way. Like, I love how you mentioned those steps. And guys, we're going to talk about those steps because I want you to hear her story. But those steps can be taken based upon your unique situation. It's not where I'm at right now. It's not where Sanji's at right now. It's where you're at. So if you have, created debt for yourself, maybe it's not healthy debt, it doesn't matter. We all been in situations where we incur debt because we have to just simply take care of our family. So, but that unique situation that you're in, it can be still packaged up for you with steps that can get you out of that debt and into the road or on the road of financial freedom. So I'm going to segue right into that. Your story is so unique to me and it resonates with me. It's such an inspirational story because you have been there, you have done that, and you are continue to make sure that there's not that many obstacles that's going to keep you still for too long. So I'm ready to jump right into that. Can you give the
Yeah, let me
audience a
just
little
tell
bit?
you a little bit about where I came from and how I got into this industry because I'm much older. I've been in this industry over 20 years. And it wasn't as easy. Well, it's not easy now, but I didn't even recognize. So here's the thing, sometimes it's good to be ignorant to certain things. We all understand the whole racism and how things have are how barriers are set up for us to not be in an industry mentally as well as physically. But I got started. Actually, I got started. First of all, it comes from someone planting a seed. And so that's why it's so important for us to continue pouring in our knowledge, whether we think people are paying attention or not, to pour in our knowledge, to talk about it, because you never know that one person may keep it in the back of their head and pursue it. And that is apparently what I did. My mother, who had a sixth grade education and was a homemaker, um, she would at dinner time, and you know, this is back in the day in the 70s, at dinner time, you ate dinner at 5 or 6 o'clock. That was dinner time because mom, that, you know, like I said, she was a homemaker. My father was a police officer, and that's what time dinner was. And after dinner, we watched the news. That is what we did. And so at the end of the news, she would always make stop, and there was numbers rolling across after the news. There was always these numbers rolling across the news, and she would say, "Stop!" She would say, "Stop! Y'all look at that right there. That's money right there. That's money right there." And she didn't really understand it herself, but what she was pointing to was the Dow Jones Industrial Average that rolled through after the news that showed what the stock market did for the day. And she didn't really understand the nuances or the jargon, but she understood that those numbers represented money. And it wasn't dollar bill money, but it was some kind of asset. And it always stuck in my head in reference to what that was. And I didn't know what it was either, but it always stuck in my head that and I found out too, you know, she would say, those stockbrokers make a lot of money. And so as a child, it stuck in my head that I wanted to be a stockbroker. And I actually wrote, um, you know, how in school they would say, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I wrote this whole little story, and I forgot I had written it, to be honest. And one day my mom pulled it out and she said, you know, you wrote this when you were, you know, 12 years old. And I laughed and I was like,
That seed.
what did I know about that? Right. But then I thought about it and I was like, it was because she used to always tell us, look at that right there. That's money right there. So obviously, that is one way that, and if we think about our families, and when I talk to my clients, you know, especially, I love working with Black women and Black women going into business, because one of the things that we all share is the knowledge of, you know, what was our real first experience with money,
Mhm.
and who was that in our family that we looked at or looked up to that had money? What auntie or cousin? It could have been your own family.
You're
Who
right.
was that person? Because that's where we really learned and started learning about money,
Mhm.
right? And so that experience, whether it was good or bad, is still something that we, um, it's in our culture and it's in our DNA. And I always know that in when I talk to Black women, one of the things too is there was always someone who ran some kind of business. And lots of times the women, we didn't get enough value, but we either sewed or mama made pies. Mama may
Mhm.
have cleaned somebody else's house, but or auntie did this, but there was always someone that we knew. And when in my family, one of the women that I looked up to is a cousin, and she was always very glamorous. that's where I used to, get the stilettos. Uh, she was always in a, she'd have her little cute suit on and her stilettos. And she was, at the time, Avon was a big deal back in the day. And that was her own little business. And I was impressed. And so there's always someone that we attach a lot of the things that we do and we emulate, and it has something to do with money. So
You're
even though
so
no one
right.
in the family, I knew no one who was a stockbroker, no one, no one Black, I knew no one. But it was in my mind that I was going to do that. So that wasn't a barrier then. And I did end up in a situation working in a bank situation where I met a gentleman in the hallway. I was working in the trust department and I had gotten a job where I actually counted stock certificates for very wealthy people of the bank. And I had decided then, I was like, whatever this is, I want part of it. I want to know what this is.
Because you're counting it, you're doing everything
I'm
with
counting it. I'm cutting coupons and bearer bonds back then. Once again, I'm dating myself. These little coupons, and people are coming to the window. Security is coming with them. And this is a little piece of paper. It's not money. It's a little piece of paper, but it represented money. And they would take these little coupons and go upstairs, and it was thousands of dollars. It was millions of dollars. And I was like, I want in on this. And how come I don't know anybody who has these? But it was stocks.
Oh, I think I lost you for 2 seconds. I'm just going to recap what you were saying. It was
Figure
bonds.
out, well, if we're losing money, like, oh no, obviously. So it was a thing. It was a thing. So I just decided that, how do I get into this industry? And it just so happened that one day, storm. So do you want me to just, okay.
Oh, you're good. So everybody on the podcast, I kept it going. I was telling them why I was so intrigued with that part, because now I think about future bonds and options in the form of a bond. So everything you were saying was right on point. But oh my goodness. So we stopped. That's where we last heard how you were saying all this. Basically, every coupon that you were seeing people cashing in was money. And you were saying, like, I got to get in on this.
And so I was saying that I got to get in on this. And then the important thing is I want my people to know about this. I'm like, I want my family to know about this. Like, you don't have to just work a job. Like, this is money. This is a piece of paper that is accumulating money without you having to work. These people, so I was intrigued as to how do I get in on this? Like, how do I get in on something like this? And how do I let my community know, my family know about it? Because nobody's talking about this. Or when we do talk about it, it's always, oh, I don't want to do anything in the stock market because I don't want to lose my money. So I used to always be like, where did that come from? Well, yes, it is absolutely true because it is a risk. However, it was an oxymoron to me because there were so many people coming down. I mean, every day I was cutting these coupons off these bonds, and people were making money, or people were cashing in stock certificates, or I had to, they were getting dividend checks, and it was just amazing to me. And so I had to figure out how to do this. And as I tried to get into, and I applied a couple of different times in the investment department, I was always turned down. And I did meet someone, like I said, a handsome gentleman one day. We talked a very, very long time. And the next day I had talked to my manager and said, I had this great conversation with this guy. He's brand new and they just sat him down the hall, but and so my manager goes, "Oh my God, do you know who you were talking to?" And I was like, "No, but he was really nice." And she said, "He's the new president of the private investment group." And I just kind of was like, "Uh-oh, what did I say to him?"
But wait a minute, this was unique because you were just being you. Here it
I
is,
was
this
being
guy that
me.
you've never seen before is in the building. You're just basically
I'm
having
just
a normal
chatting.
conversation with him.
I'm having a conversation, and we were talking about and we got we were talking about, I was in school, I had young children, but I must have said to him, "Well, I'm always working late, and I'm doing this, and I love putting together these things." And I apparently did mention to him that I wanted to work in the investment management department, and get my licenses, my securities licenses and things like that. But I had never gotten the opportunity. I was never hired. And at any rate, he remembered that. The next about a couple of days later, he walked down the hall and peeked in my little office, and he said, "I'd love to talk to you. Um, I'd love to talk to you about some of the things we talked about the other day." And he actually gave me an opportunity to work in investment management. And you really have to be, basically, there has to be somebody behind you to allow open what they call open the door, so you can, and it truly is, when they call you, they say, "We're opening the door for this 90-day period for you to take this exam." So back then, you truly had to have a sponsor. And so that's one of the barriers to this industry, is that you do have to have some kind of sponsor to take your Series 7 exam, or you did back in the day.
But let me make sure I'm saying this right too. So for you, it was literally just a door being opened because they gave you a time frame. So you still had to complete
your license in 90 days. What he did was he offered me a job as an assistant for 6 brokers. And that's how I got in. Now, mind you, these guys, all Caucasian, were hired in off the street. They got offices and they got the ability to study for 90 days for the same exam. Whereas I did not get that same opportunity. I was hired in as their assistant, and I had to work for 6 brokers at that time and study for the exam, just like they were doing. But they came to work and got paid just to study, whereas I came to work and I had to do work.
You had to do their work, all 6
I
of
had to
their
do
work.
their work. I was
And then study.
I was their assistant, so I was answering the phones and all of that stuff. And at the time, I knew it was wrong, but I was so grateful. So that's a whole nother conversation. Like, young ladies, you today would never have put up with that. Y'all, you know what I'm saying? But because it was the opportunity. So when we talk about opening doors and things like that, there are things that would have definitely been not acceptable back then. That that's acceptable, and you just go along with it to get where you want to go. That today, that would have been a lawsuit, like right then and there. Like, how come these guys?
But you know what? You really hit a point, because, and I'm just thinking for myself, just recently, and I share with you personally my experience. I was doing a position for about 6 years, and I was good enough to train everybody that came through the doors for that position, but I wasn't good enough to get promoted and move up. I was good enough to watch them start in the same position with no knowledge and allow me to teach them that knowledge. And they start off thousands of dollars more than me and get moved up. And so I that resonates with me, because your mindset, and that's how my mindset has been. Let me get the knowledge. Let me be the one to take one for the team, if you will. And so that I can open up more doors for other people. So I appreciate that. That resonates with me, because a lot of us are in that same shoes. It's different in corporate America, we
Yeah.
face it a little bit different. We may accept the challenge as a challenge like you did.
Yeah.
So I love your
I
tenacity.
accepted it as a challenge. I studied at night. I had two babies at the time, I had young children, and I just studied at night after and I'm a late person anyway. So around 11 o'clock, or maybe it was around 10, after everything was done, put the babies to bed, and I would study from like 10 to 2 o'clock. And I did that straight for like 60 to 90 days. Every day I studied
Wow.
because I knew that I wasn't going to have another opportunity to take this exam. Like those other guys that they had opportunities, they told me you get two times to take it, we'll pay for it. The third time you have to do it on your own, blah, blah, blah. I already knew that I had to pass this exam the first time. I mean, you could say all you want to. I already knew that, and I kind of knew that I don't think they really was expecting me to pass it, to be honest. Especially the first time go around. And at any rate, I studied, and I passed that exam. And I was so proud of myself. And what they had promised me, the deal was, you pass it, and we will promote you to a financial advisor, and we'll also give you a book of business.
Mm.
And so that was the challenge, and I met the challenge.
I like it.
And I was so proud of myself. I actually, for that particular bank, I was the first Black financial female in Richmond for that particular bank to be a financial advisor. And so it just went on from there. There were still lots of challenges, because you're a Black
Yeah.
female advisor. There still was a lot of challenges. However, I've always stuck to it. But it's a great story, and it's a great story about being, because one of the things he said he loved about me was that he thought I was persistent, and I have always been persistent. And I also gave my truth, because one of the things during the interview was, why did I want to do it? And I told him, because I want my community to know about investing. I want them to know about investing, and I want my children to know, and I want my community to invest and not be afraid, to understand it, and be educated about it, and make good choices. When they do make a decision, make a good decision based on facts, and not just this myth and this story. As you know, we've been hoodwinked.
Yeah. That there's only a certain amount of ways that you can actually get financially fit, in a sense, and make money. You're right.
Right, right. And so, and this was a way, once again, it's all about, we still put in the work, right? But when you making money, you got to figure out, what's the best way to optimize the money that I've made?
Mm-hmm.
And do I know all of the options? Do I have all of my options? And I can go from here, but definitely not, don't make it and put it under the bed and just leave it. Right? Because there's all those factors. There's inflation and all those other things that you can make money. $100 today is not going to be worth $100 in the future. What you can buy with $100. As a matter of fact, we're experiencing inflation right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to take into consideration all of those things, in order to be wealthy and to generate the income off of money we've already made. That's the whole key to it.
And I love
So,
that point that you just made, because since we're all, I shouldn't say finally, it's not a good thing, but since this is the highest that inflation has been in so many years, even for my parents, I think about my parents, their retirement account. What does that look like? Did they have other streams of income to help out? Because like you
right.
said, that dollar that they saved all this time is different now with the
It's
inflation.
different.
It's different.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we have to think like that now when we're planning out
Right.
our retirement income and our wealth that we want to pass down. How are we going to beat inflation, in a sense?
Right.
So I love that
And
you
we're in
pointed
a
that
more,
out.
and we're even in a more precarious position, because our parents more than likely have pensions. And so that's
Mhm.
guaranteed streams of income. Whereas the pension Act in 1996 basically allowed corporations to stop offering pensions. And so people kind of think that there's two things we're going to get: social security check and a pension. Well, you may not get either one. So we have to understand that there's no one in most jobs, unless you're working for the federal government or maybe some municipalities, and they've even tweaked it a little bit. You
Mhm.
are responsible for your retirement. It used to be the reverse, where the company you work for was responsible and they put money away for you. Now you have to do it in most
Yeah.
corporations because it's cheaper for them to do it that way. And the Pension Protection Act got all these companies, and like I said, this is 1996. This is a long time ago, and I think people still think that they're going to get some kind of pension or their pension is the same. And so that's different because our parents got pensions, and that's going
Mhm.
to be different from us. And that so and you speak, and so that's guaranteed income, but also like you said, is the money that we're putting away keeping up with inflation? So that's the first thing that reduces your money. So just because you have $100,000, it's got to last for, first of all, a long time. And I always talk about, do you know what your number is, and have you taken into consideration inflation and how that's going to eat it up? That's why you can't sit in all your money can't sit just in the savings account earning 0.01%, because it's not
Mhm.
going to keep up with inflation. And you have to take a look at doing some things in order to make sure you earn as much money as you can. And even with what you're doing, we call leveraging and hedging, and it's sophisticated, but it is something that actually some people think it sound risky, but actually it's a hedge.
Mhm.
So in some situations, lots of situations, with companies, you might own a whole lot of a company's stock, and doing futures contracts. I probably shouldn't, because that's one of the things I'm not saying to do it, but I'm just saying, but doing
Mhm.
futures and options and things like that actually gives you a hedge on that company's stock that you own. But that's the story that we have to tell, because people need to
Mhm.
understand that
And you're
part.
so right about that. My husband and I, we were having a conversation recently about, pensions and everything. So,
Mhm.
and I didn't even think about it because I'm like you, my father was a cop. So yes, he retired with his pension, you know, but for us, my husband is in public safety. He
Mhm.
doesn't have that pension the way
Right.
that they did back in the day
The
for
way
other public.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
so you're right. We had to get creative and
Right.
basically understand how to allocate our money,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
I'm like you. I say, don't put it underneath the mattress, but you know, having money in your savings does help because you can access it anytime. Whereas
Yes.
there's a lot of different accounts when you start investing, you can't access right away, or you have to
Exactly.
wait for certain. But we have to plan these things out. You have to know what kind of account you have. And like you said, if you want to get sophisticated by trying a futures trade, well, when you make that money, what account are you going to put it in so it can grow better and
Right.
safe?
Right. So you
Allocate
still
that
have to
money.
have So you still have to have, I'm glad you said that, because we're still talking about buckets. It's just not
Mm-hmm.
one account anyway. I always say that when people, well, which one is the best? Sometimes it's not just one. Usually it's never just one. And that's why we talk about diversifying, doing some of this, doing that, and looking at what your risk tolerance, understanding what your risk tolerance is. You absolutely have to have that savings account, because that is, at least that nothing's going to happen with that. But do you need to have $1 million sitting in that savings account? Probably not. Once again, it depends on maybe you do. I don't
Yeah,
know.
if you got
But
other accounts,
but
but
just like yeah, but that is what's going back, the whole planning. Um, and everybody's picture is going to be different. So that's another thing I know we just talk about is you could talk to your friend all you want to. Her family situation is going to be different than yours. I'm going to give different advice to that person. It is not the same. And when people come and say, well, this person did this, that worked for them, but do you really know if it's going to work for you? Is it really the right thing for your family? And you need to really know the answer to that question. And you need to know how it's going to work for you and your family,
I
because you
love.
never know. Maybe that person should
Mhm.
be working on reducing their debt before you
Mhm.
starting it to put so, or you can do it simultaneously. Once again, it
Mhm.
goes back to having a plan, some kind of
Having a
plan.
plan.
What does your picture look like? And let's just all be honest, because that's how wealthy people got wealthy. They were honest with
Mhm.
themselves and they actually had a plan.
That's right. And that's another thing too, having a plan and the assistance with expertise to help you along that plan. And
Right.
guys, this is why we're sharing, because Christina's not going to tell you all those different accounts that's out there and sit you down and make a customized sheet or a plan like Sonji was. Because why? She has her certificates. It's important that when you get a financial advisor and you're ready to take these steps and start planning, that you go to someone that understands the whole system. They are certified and they know how they can make your money with your situation be the best valuable plan for you. So that's something that you really hit on. I love that, because you have a lot of different plans to offer depending on people's situation.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Exactly. So I do, and that's what it kind of is. It should always start out with a plan. I have clients, lots of clients, and they don't just do investing with me. They do other things, but I just pull it all together. And I'm starting to do something called a one-page financial plan. Most everything is going to be sometimes 30 or 40 page binder, but everybody likes simplicity. And what I'd look at, number one, is let's focus on what's important to you. Living, is it living right now? Is it, do you owe debt? Is it just growing? Let's focus on two or three things first. Let's look at the plan and let's put it in buckets, because your plan does change. But let's look at one page and see where everything is, and see, and then also advise on how we're going to get there. And I love it because it's something you can pull up and look at your net worth, and you can also see your net worth go up. So we haven't even talked about accounts and what you're going to be doing, but we just want to look at, well, where am I today, right?
What's my
Today.
truth?
And
Yeah.
then, yeah. And then with all the things that I'm going to do, how am I going to look down the road? And how is this going to look down the road? What is my cash flow going to look as I'm investing in these different accounts? And how do I get from, how do I get my $5 million portfolio, and it's going to show you exactly the steps and how, and of course there's going to be some changes because your lifestyle may change. You could change jobs, you might have a business that blows up. All of that stuff is a factor, but that plan is so important. It is so important to have a written document so that you can see everything. Are you protect? And then with us making all this money, Christina, now you got to do some estate planning and tax
Yeah,
planning,
that's what I
because you
was
don't want to
thinking.
make all this money and just give it all away.
Are you planning out them taxes? That's exactly what I was thinking, because that's going to be a lot of money and costly also, if you
There
don't
you
plan it
go.
right.
If you don't plan it right, you're
Mhm.
giving up a whole lot of money in taxes. um you're giving a whole lot of money in even the estate. The worst thing that can happen is, God forbid, you die and you didn't leave any wills or things. So now a whole lot of money got to go, depending on what state you're in. Now a whole lot of money got to go to lawyers. And so that's why it's so important to have a team. Just look at it. You're the CEO of your household.
Mhm.
You got to have a team put together, and you got to have some kind of plan in place. And I always talk, when I talk about plans too, you don't have to do, once you have a financial plan in place, you can open up accounts anywhere you want to. Hopefully you use my advice, or in my
Yeah.
team, the folks that I work with, advice. But you could just do what you wanted to do. Most of the time people don't, because why? but but you could do a lot of different things, because guess what? You got a roadmap. That's what I like to call it. It's a road. Now you got a roadmap in place. So that is really the first way to start looking at it, to put all the pieces together.
I love it. And when you say, so I'm just trying to think of suggestions to probably give some of the audience. Maybe they don't know what, like where to start first. Should they look if they are homeowners? And guys, this is just not for if we're older, our parents or anything like that. I'm thinking, Christina, what should I be planning first? Should I go ahead and make sure I have my estate planning done? Because we're living in a pandemic. You just never know when things happen, no matter how old or young we are.
Yeah, we are living in a pandemic, and over the last 2 years, it has become more important for everybody to be looking at doing an estate planning, is looking at doing your wills, and it could be as simple as checking your 401k at work and who you have listed as your beneficiary. Start there.
Mhm.
It's amazing how someone may have listed, let's say it's a second marriage in there somewhere, and they forgot to take the previous wife off. In many cases, they still
It's
got
so
their mama
true.
on there. On their
You're right.
401k.
Yeah,
They
that's
didn't
true.
need to do it. They just didn't think about it.
Didn't think about it. You are absolutely right. Yeah.
Right? So it starts, it's something as simple as checking your beneficiaries on your 401k and your IRA. Because a 401k and your IRA, that's the legal document. It doesn't matter if you have a will. Whatever that 401k or that life insurance says the beneficiary is, that's who's going to get the money. So that's first. And then, especially if you have a young family and things like that, you probably do want to work on some kind of simple will. And that depends on how much wealth you have too. Some kind of simple will, just to make directions and give instructions in case something happened to you. What would you want for the children? Who would you want to do something for the children? Something very simple. I think, and most importantly, is always checking out who's on the 401k, how's everything titled. If you have wealth and assets, then you are going to start looking at a trust and doing a simple trust. And that's because somebody's going to control that trust, and the money is not going to just go everywhere. It's going to be your instructions and directions. And so that's part of protecting your assets that you have. And it is actually very important, especially in this environment. Um, I've had a couple of my clients that actually passed away this year from COVID. And it has been, that's one of the things too, I always say in this business as an advisor, putting plans together and all that stuff. You did a good job, a really excellent job. And I'm sad to say, but especially when the client dies, because when it goes smoothly and the distributions go to everybody that is supposed to go, and you're not having if nobody's fighting because you put everything in place, it is so amazing, the difference. And so I'm just from the experience, years ago it was book learning.
Yeah.
Now right? So
You're
years
right.
ago it was book
Yeah.
learning. Now it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I made them do this, this, and this.
That experience.
It's very important, and but I do believe that you first start with, but really your retirement plans. There are other things you can do, and that's a whole nother podcast. But you definitely want to stay there, and you definitely want to. Nobody wants to think about it, but the environment that we're in, you kind of have to.
Yeah, and you're right. And even if and I always tell people, because sometimes we get excited when we first start learning how to invest. So you open up a Robinhood account, or you go to TD America, you're
Right,
using
right,
Thinkorswim, you go to Swap.
right.
There's so many things we can do ourselves, even though we're excited, make sure you take the time and don't skip over the beneficiary there too. Because if you
Correct.
start making some money on your investments and trading, and there's nobody listed.
Right, right. So
That's
the
a
other thing
problem.
too with this whole thing is most of these accounts, Robinhood, I'm sure if it's any kind of brokerage account, most of them also ask for a trusted contact. Because most of the time
Mhm.
you don't just die, but you could be in a coma. You could be, you know what I'm saying?
Something can
Um,
happen.
something can happen. And so
Mhm.
listing at least a trusted contact who is not the beneficiary, is just
Right.
somebody that in case something happens, we know we can talk to this person and find out, oh, this
Mhm.
person is sick. And then we can either freeze the account or whatever till we hear from that person, all kinds of things that can be done. So it is
That's so
very
true.
important. It's very important to think about those things.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love how you also pointed out making that will, making sure you have something in writing too, because that's a huge factor, and the peace that you experience from going through this whole, unfortunately experiencing it, but you seeing how your experience is kicking in when there's death, that is such a comfort. Guys, I don't know if you realize it, because you're less stressed, you're giving your body time to mourn. You don't have to hurry up and clear out a house because nobody has a document. They have to put the house up for sale. It's a whole lot of chaos that doesn't have to happen.
People, sisters and brothers, it's sad. It is sad because sisters and brothers are no longer talking to each other for years, and a lot of it is because, it is really because we didn't know any better, right? The wealth that has been lost in our communities because we didn't do trust or we didn't do wills is a huge factor. If we look at Hilton Head, North Carolina, that was all Black owned property.
Yeah.
Not North Carolina, South Carolina. And because we didn't have the right legal documents, we lost out. And then what happened is a lot of folks talk about airland and, but when someone owns it and they die, and let's say they had 5 kids, now it all belongs to all 5 kids. And then one child want their money out of it. So it's just messy. It's messy. Or somebody doesn't pay the property taxes, because that's all it takes. When it's really, really chaotic, you can go down to the courthouse because nobody can figure out who really owns it. And the courthouse, and you could actually go down to the courthouse on property like that and buy it just because nobody can figure out who really owns it. So it's a lot that we have to do. We do have to document things. And wills, and a will and trust is very important actually to your whole plan. And so that's one of the things I actually, I do. That's a check mark. Is discussing whether, my client, whether you have one. It's not, that's why it is always important. It's not just the money. See, wealth isn't just earning the money, it's protecting the money, and then providing a way for it to last for generations. That's where your estate planning comes into. So it's very important. And so you have to do all of it. And so my story about this, my client, it's funny because I sat down with her and she sat down with all her kids, and she basically told them, you're gonna get this, this, and this, and this is what's gonna happen if something should happen to me. And she was like, matter of fact, she was so funny. I loved her. No one would have thought a year later she was gonna be gone. But let me just tell you, because we did that trust, and because it was the smoothest transition ever, because everybody already knew what was going on.
There was no confusion.
There was no confusion. They already knew that you will get a certain amount of money at this age. you will get this money if you finish your degree. It was no competition whatsoever. They already knew that. Don't go out here spend. You're not getting this money. Go spend this car on a car because grandma already she told you this last year, but now she really is gone.
Yeah.
So everything she already said, before you can get this money, you got to go to school, get a degree. And now if you choose not to go to school, that's on you. You're not going to get this money.
No.
And so they already know what the deal is. But that means that the money continues growing. It has an opportunity to keep growing. And even though they may be they're not disappointed because they already knew. But when they get to be in their 50s, because she's basically laid it out, this is what you get at this age, and then at 50, you get the whole shebang. And this is what wealthy people do, because not only that, now you got this long period of time for it to invest and to accumulate and to grow. And hopefully by then you've learned a couple of different things too. And so you're wealthy. So you're going to get this money at that age. So it's very important. It's a very, and that is what wealthy people do.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the difference between what rich people do, rich and wealthy, that's
Difference.
a huge difference. That's one of the things that they do, is they make sure that they have their legal documents straight.
I
And
love how
they
you said not only their legal documents, but they're planning for
they're
generations,
planning.
50 years from now, 100 years from
Exactly.
now, 200 years from
Exactly.
now. They're planning this out. And
Exactly.
an important part that you hit is that because they have their documents in place, they're not allowing how can I say it, money left on the table. You know, they
Right.
know where that something that whatever like if it's money or if it's a house, if it's real estate, is going to be
Exactly.
passed on for generational wealth.
Exactly. Whatever asset. So wealthy people create income for others. That's what they do. And that's exactly what she did. She
Yeah.
created income for her grandchildren.
And
So
we
that's
are
what
not,
wealthy people do.
and we're not talking about I'm going to mess it up. See, I was trying to be cute and have a little joke, guys, but then I'm not quick like my husband. What is that? It's the clearinghouse. They come and you get money and then they pay you every so
Yes, I know
it's not
exactly what
like
you're
that.
talking about.
It's real money.
Right, it's real money. Right, create
The
income
clearinghouse.
for other people. So that's a mindset. That's what we have to start thinking about. And guess what? We can do it all. Sometimes it sounds like, oh, this is so much. It's just too much. But we can do all of this. We can do all of this. I don't care if it's $2 you're gonna leave to your grandchild. Leave it. Leave it.
That's right. That's $2 they didn't have.
Right. That's $2 they have.
And if you take it from me, you could put $2 in futures and you could grow that to 200 real quick.
See?
And allocate that money.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm talking about right there. So there's a way to do it. And we are helping our community, and it's a blessing to me. Like, I felt so good that I was like, okay, we went through all of this and this was the end. But I felt so good because I not only saw the transfer of wealth to the daughter, but now I also experienced a transfer of wealth to the grandchildren.
Wow.
Right. And so now I'm setting up so that the grandchildren are going to make sure that they can transfer their wealth to their children. So it's exciting. It's what we should all strive to be doing. We're going to make this money. We definitely going to make this money, but we just want to make sure also that we understand and learn all the strategies, or as many strategies as possible, and as many options to not only make this money work for ourselves during our lifetime, but to pass on a good portion to see the next generation. Every other culture, we're behind because of lack of knowledge. Other cultures, if you think about it, if you have the ability to put a down payment on a house for your child, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to get into credit today, but if you have the money to put down payment on a house for your child when they get to be of age, that's amazing. They are way ahead,
Way
as
ahead.
opposed to the majority of us had to scrape it together, or we got to get the second loan and all of this stuff, and the
Yeah.
stress. We are always paying more money. We are paying a higher interest rate. All of
Mhm.
that factors into our wealth. So we have to start building this and thinking about, I want to at least be able to do that. And how about saddling our children with college debt,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
$300,000 or even just $100,000, they come out of school in debt. So we're
Right.
already behind, right? So we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of strategies to remove debt and grow money and do wealth. And I'm just honored to be in this industry, and I just want to teach people and show them, this is how you put it together. It is a puzzle. You always do the heavy there,
Mm.
that you're gonna
Yeah.
always do the heavy lifting. But let's just show you the best ways to make sure we accumulate, and we distribute
Mhm.
this in a fashion that's going to be beneficial to your family and especially your children.
And I got to tell you, we probably will have to do another podcast because, guys, I hope you picked up what she was saying towards the end of that. Um, we really do spend so much money on, like you said, we don't have enough money just to put a down payment down. We're paying mortgage insurance. We're paying
Yep.
all this extra fees and things that we don't
Yep.
even have to, that don't even have to be included in our
Right.
monthly payment, but we are. And our
Yes.
credit scores, when they're not what the system requires, in a
Right.
sense,
Right.
you're already paying way more interest by itself. So you're so right. All these strategies of planning, writing it down, seeing your truth where you are now and getting where
Yep.
you want to be
Yep.
is saving thousands
Now,
of dollars.
hundreds of thousands, hundreds. Because when we talk about
Yeah,
a house, the difference between a higher interest rate and low is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It really is.
it
So,
really is. It really
mhm,
is. It,
mhm,
oh my goodness, it is.
yep,
Ah, so I'm hoping you guys are picking this up, and reach out to us if you have questions. If you're in the membership, you have, I have a like a utilization sheet to where you can see the compound interest on your home, so you can really see how much interest that is and how you can actually
right,
knock it down faster.
right,
But
right.
Sanji has these plans now that you can put in place. And like she said,
Right.
small steps. It doesn't
Yep.
have to be, I'm planning for 50 years now, but no, start planning at least for this
Right.
year and next year with her.
Exactly. Yep.
Um,
What your goals are? What are you planning?
mhm.
And that's, I got a lot of stuff on my website that's free.
Oh, can you tell me
And
your
then I have
website? Thank you for
it's
telling me.
www.s as in Sanji, R as in Rollins, T as in Tucker, wealthdesign.com. That's srtwealthdesign.com.
Right down there.
I actually have two. And you can go up there. There are calculators. There is a financial wellness quiz. Please take that. That's a great uh, resource. And then there's some checklists too. I'm probably going to just get that out there. So sometimes it's easy. I love checklists. Most people like
Mhm.
checklists. So I actually have a checklist of things that you should be considering for 2022.
There
And
you
I
go.
can make that available. Now that's available on a different website, on the Modern Wealth by Design website. And that's
Okay.
Modern Wealth by Design. That checklist is available there.
Awesome. And guys, we only have a couple more minutes to wrap it up. So I want you at this time to make sure you're looking at those sites. Take advantage of it. This is a lot of information and checklists and everything, all these resources and tools that you can use. Everything that she had explained to you, should solidify how money is a protection. The more you know about your money, you understand your money, you strategize and allocate your dollars to work for you, not against you, then you're using money as a tool properly. And so, Sonji, any final advice you can give the audience?
Last but least, money is power. Period. Money is power, and we should not. Lots of, I've said that before, and people like, oh no, it doesn't mean it. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Money is power. At the end of the day, money is power. Not be ashamed to say that, because it is power. And so we want to make sure that we can focus our power and energy on making sure it going into the right places and the right channels. And this is just a resource. We are resources in order to be able to do that. So that's last, but that's the last thing, is to remember money is power.
Guys, you heard it here first. Look at all the details below. We're going to definitely probably have Sonji again, because credit is a hot topic. Getting your credit in shape for 2022, please put that on the list. And buying a home increases your wealth instantly.
Yep.
Versus somebody that don't. Yes.
Yep.
So we're going to have her back on again to talk about that, because, oh my goodness, this was awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being a guest today. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. Looking forward to talking again very soon.
Absolutely. Till next time, guys.